Good afternoon and welcome to SB 224 Student Mental Health Education Implementation. Why, what, and how. My name is Steve Zimmer, Deputy Superintendent for the California Department of Education. And on behalf of Superintendent Tony Thurman, I want to welcome you today. I want to thank you for being part of this important webinar. I'd also right now like to turn it over to my colleague, Deputy Superintendent Nancy Portillo, for a brief introduction. Nancy?
Thank you, Deputy Zimmer. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my absolute pleasure and honor to be here with you for this very important dialogue and session on student mental health. I look forward to listening, learning, leading, and journeying with you on this very important topic today. I work extremely closely with Deputy Zimmer and the team on this work. So again, just very happy to be here with you again. And thank you so much for all you do. Back to you, Deputy Zimmer.
Thank you very much, Deputy Superintendent Portillo. I want to just set a little bit of context that what we are about to learn about today is part of an effort Superintendent Thurman, the State Board of Education, the legislature, to transform public education in California. And where this fits in terms of the entire 360-degree picture, our full circle of transforming schools, is critically important. It's connected directly to our efforts around community schools, our efforts around anti-bias education, expanded learning programs, universal meals, universal pre-kindergarten, and our training. And this is where it's so important, our professional learning as professionals. I want to thank you for everything that you do every day. I want to thank you for being there for our students, especially now, in this moment that is so painful. We offer this webinar at the end of a month that has been filled with tragedy, with violence, and our hearts are with communities in Monterey Park, Half Moon Bay, Memphis. Part of helping students cope with the stress, the anxiety, the anger, and the pain of our moment is mental health education. And that's what we're going to learn about today. It's now my honor to introduce Doreen Khatib from the Orange County Office of Education, who's been an amazing partner to us in so much of our work around health education, and who will lead us through the first part of our webinar. Doreen?
Thank you so much, Deputy Superintendent. I'm very excited to be here. Hi, everybody. I am not only wearing my Administrator of Health and Wellness, Orange County Department of Education hat, but I'm also very honored to be wearing my hat as co-chair of the California Health Education Community of Practice. So as a part of the statewide rollout for the 2019 California Health Education Framework, we were able to form this community of practice that's actually serving as the Curriculum and Instruction Steering Committee subcommittee for health. And why that's important is that it really did put health on the map in regards to it is a content area. It is a very important content area. And our big collective goal across the state is to really advance health literacy. That's the goal of health education, because we are understanding that physical, mental, and social emotional health, they're all interconnected. And when we improve the health of our students, we're also going to be supporting their learning, and we're going to be supporting their academic achievement. We know healthy students are better learners. So really this idea of health literacy, this is just making the point that health literacy and health literate students are really, it's going to help support them be 21st century learners. When you look at some of what's on this slide, when we look at skills like critical thinking and problem solving, we want students to be self-directed, but we also want them to have the skills to be able to use basic health information and services. So when they have the essential concepts, essential knowledge, and skills, they are more likely to utilize services, and they're more likely to benefit from services. We also want them to be effective communicators. We want them to be able to translate knowledge into practice. We want what they're learning on school campuses to influence their behaviors. And of course, we want them to be responsible and productive citizens. We want them to contribute to their own health, the health of their peers, the health of their school community, the health of their families, and the health of their extended community as well. So why am I telling you all about this? Is that really for health education as a content area, we have standards, and this is a model that we created to really look at how the standards in health education help support increasing health literacy for students. So the very, very bottom standard in this ladder is essential concepts. Do we want students to have information and knowledge, basic health information? Absolutely, that is incredibly important. But we don't want to just stay at that bottom level. So the additional standards are really very much where the skills come in. We want students to analyze what are some internal influences and external influences that are impacting their health behaviors. Where are they getting their information? How do they know that that source is valid, that's credible? Interpersonal communication is everything from collaboration to negotiation to refusal. Those are skills that need practice, that need honing. Decision-making. You know, we always tell students, go make good decisions. How? We have to teach them that. That's a skill, and they have to be able to practice that. Goal setting. Of course, practicing health-enhancing behaviors. Can we give them a space on campus in a classroom to actually practice what those healthy behaviors look like so that they're more likely to actually apply them in their daily living? And then, of course, health promotion. And that's really the advocacy piece. Them advocating for their own health, asking for help when they need it, advocating for the health of their peers, advocating for the health of their families, and advocating for the health of their community, which you could imagine, you know, as you could see, the skills become more sophisticated as they go up, health literacy increases, and there's so much potential as far as creating relevant opportunities for students to engage with health content in the classroom and outside of the classroom, at the school level and in the community. I hope you also notice that a lot of the health education content standards very much align with our SEL competencies, our social emotional learning competencies. There's a lot of opportunity when we're teaching health education that we are reinforcing those SEL competencies that are very much skills as well. So health education, there are 6 content areas in health, in our health courses. There's a lot to cover, but I'm just making the point where you can see we've had a health content, mental, emotional, and social health. That is where the SB 224 required instruction lives within this health education course. And then I just wanted to really make sure that I mentioned that when we talk about mental health instruction, when we talk about education, we're talking about a universal support for all students. Our goal is that all students can have access to this really important knowledge and skill development. There's also a beautiful opportunity to look at our own individual health practices, but also our family, traditions, culture. You could bring in diverse viewpoints and backgrounds and how that contributes to health and health behaviors. There's such a beautiful opportunity to look at the school context and how the school promotes health, community partnerships, and opportunity to extend to the community. Also, health education, there is a lot of opportunity to connect with literacy and science and even math and social studies. There is a lot of connection to other content areas and instruction. And of course, it is essential in reducing and eliminating stigma. The more students get exposed to talking about mental health and mental well-being and all of the opportunities that we have and how they're interconnected with physical health and all of those beautiful things, the more likely they are to seek help when they need it, the more likely they are to utilize health services that are available to them. So there is a partnership because we have so many wonderful mental health professionals on school campuses and through community partners that can provide supplemental, intensive, and additional supports. So we really want to look at that as a partnership. Universal support, prevention-focused, learning, skill-based, and then a link to there's wonderful supports for you should you need additional help. Here are the amazing partners that we have on school campuses looking at early intervention and really shout out to, because I know a lot of our mental health professionals do provide education and skill building in a lot of the services that they provide. So it is a reinforcement. So this slide is just a reinforcement that we want to be able to partner. It's a very important partnership and one does not take the place of the other. And with that, I'm going to pause and hand it off to the next presenter to give us a little bit more of what is SB 224. Tell us a little bit more of that detail. What does the legislation include? When is this supposed to take place? And give you a little bit of the detail behind the legislation.
Great. Thank you so much, Doreen, for that wonderful kind of big picture of where this all fits. My name is Chris Miller. I currently work as a religious studies teacher at a Catholic high school in the San Francisco Bay Area, and was very involved with Senate Bill 224, along with partners, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. I also sit on the Student Mental Health Policy Work Group, and as part of Doreen's committee that's looking at the health education group. So some background information as we get started here. In 2013, Governor Brown signed Senate Bill 330, which essentially stated that in the next revision of the health framework, the Instructional Quality Commission, which is a commission of the State Board of Education, shall consider including a distinct category in mental health instruction to educate pupils about all aspects of mental health. So this was something that was signed in 2013. The health framework, due to a variety of issues, particularly some budget-related issues, ultimately was not published or released until 2018. And in 2018, when the State Board of Education adopted the health framework, there did indeed was a distinct category in mental health instruction that was referenced earlier. Next slide, please. So the why. Most of us probably know the why, but just as a reminder, sadly, suicide is the second leading cause of death for adolescents in the United States. Fully a fifth of all children and youth experience a mental disorder every year, and only a fraction receive any treatment. According to the California Healthy Kids Survey, probably the most reliable data source statewide, 19% of ninth graders, 18% of 11th graders, and fully 1/4 of non-traditional students in the state seriously endorsed or seriously considered suicide in the previous year. I believe that was 2019 data, if I'm not mistaken. And then pre-pandemic youth suicide rates in some of the Bay Area counties where I'm located were higher than the state average. And there was a perfect storm of stress, anxiety, and trauma created by COVID generated a tsunami of need of child and adolescent mental health services in the coming years. And we're seeing that playing out as we speak. So the what? On October 8th, 2021, Senate Bill 224 was signed. Senate Bill 224 was introduced by Senator Portantino as a state senator, and was co-sponsored by a number of other state legislators. The California Alliance, big shout out to them, along with NAMI California, were really provided great institutional support for the bill. The bill was effective January 1st of last year, 2022. The contents of the bill, and this is directly from the bill language, that each school district, county office of ed, special school, or charter school that offers one or more courses in health education to pupils in middle school or high school shall include in those courses instruction in mental health that meets the requirements of this article. Initially, when the bill was introduced, mental health education was to be taught once at the elementary, once in the middle, and once in the high school level. And as it was going through the legislative committee process, that was cut to only for health courses. And then in addition, on or before January 1st, 2024, so 11 months away, the Department of Education shall develop a plan to expand mental health instruction across California public schools. Next slide, please. So there are, I believe, 7 or 8 different components that are in the bill of what instruction shall include, which includes reasonably designed instruction on overarching themes and core principles, defining signs and symptoms of common mental health challenges, evidence-based services and supports, mental health wellness and protective factors. Next slide, please. the ability to identify warning signs of common mental health problems, how to seek and find assistance from professionals and services, evidence-based and culturally responsive practices, and the connection and importance of mental health to overall health and academic success to co-occurring conditions. I think it's important to recognize, and there's two more here, the prevalence of mental health challenges across all populations, races, ethnicities, including the impact of race, ethnicity, and culture and experience and treatment, and stigma surrounding mental health challenges. It's important to recognize that legislation, when it is in the form of law, is pretty broad. It provides topics, provides instruction of what is to be taught, and then the Department of Education and others involved then are in charge of implementing and developing local education agencies' curriculum that meets the instructional mandates. So these are instructional mandates. One thing I do want to point out is that last one, stigma and surrounding mental health challenges, is interesting because in the health content standards, which if I remember correctly, were last adopted in 2008, stigma in and of itself as a word is not used. Whereas in the framework, there is some reference to stigma, but I think it's important to recognize that this is legislative mandate, and so as part of that, next time the health content standards are revised, that would likely be something that we see in the content standards. Next slide, please. So who is affected by this? So as I mentioned earlier, in the bill language, or in its law, codified in law now, each school district, county office of ed, state special school, and charter school that offers one or more courses in health education to pupils in middle school or high school. Based upon some documentation that I received from the Department of Education, the law language is not subject or not required when there is a course such as physical education, advisory, or science, where health is embedded into that and is not its own major topic. So the bottom line is any course that has health in its title is subject to the new law. I'll give you an example. My local educational authority, Las Vegas-Saratoga High School District, where I reside, has a physical education and health course, and that's what it's titled. And as that, health is a major component and would be subject to the provisions of law that were in Senate Bill 224. Next slide, please. So the when is the provisions found in Senate Bill 224 legally took effect on January 1st. Although, as I say, there are no education code police walking around. And I know that there was some grace period given. Ultimately, the schools were to have started mentioning teaching about the content this school year. So, August, September of 2022 through the end of this school year, 2023. And then in addition, on or before January 1st, Department of Education shall develop a plan to expand mental health instruction in California public schools. And again, the where across the state of California, based on DataQuest from the 18-19 school year, 2,394 schools offering grades 7 through 12 offered a single subject course in health education. And this was actually from the legislative analyst provided this information, approximately 67.4% of middle school and high schools in the state of California. So the next steps are, we need you. We are looking to, this is a team that's really working on implementing and developing, identifying resources that support required instruction, looking to individuals to host, participate in professional development, build knowledge and skills related to mental health education, and consider joining the mental health education work group, which is part of the health education community of practice that Doreen mentioned a little bit earlier. Some long-term considerations and next steps is the Department of Education will develop a plan to expand mental health instruction in California public schools by January 1st of 2024, so 11 months away. In addition, consider additional legislation that mandates mental health instruction for all students, and then consider legislation that mandates health education as a graduation requirement to create equitable access. Before I turn it over to the next person, I just wanted to address two things in the Q&A, which I think are relevant. And one of them is if a school district does not have a health course, well, of course, there's no provision saying that the district can't offer the mental health education, but it is not a mandate. So it is only a mandate for schools that have a health course that mental health instruction is required. And again, hopefully we'll be able to look for additional legislation that will expand that. But at this point in time, it is only for schools with a mandated health course. So then there was also a question about schools that offer one or more health education classes. How does it align with? I know that the provisions of Senate Bill 224, are as part of is a mandate that a school at LEA can determine how and where they're going to incorporate that into instruction. So many people on here who are in the health field may be aware of some of the sexual health education requirements. And that actually goes to a broader question that is the elephant in the room, I guess you could say, of, at some point, should there be a mandated health course? In California, there is no graduation requirement for health education, for a health course. And I know a number of other states do have a health course for graduation. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Amelia, who is going to give some mental health instructional considerations from a teacher leader.
Thank you, Chris. Hi, everyone. My name is Amelia Johnson. I am a teacher in the Long Beach Unified School District, here to share the mental health instruction and those considerations for learning and teaching. Published in 2021, the UCLA Center for Health Policy Research shared that 45% of our California youth between the ages of 12 and 17 reported having recent struggles with mental health issues, with nearly a third of them experiencing serious psychological distress that could interfere with not only their academic but social functioning. I want to stay here just for a moment so that we can digest this. We know what happened in 2020. The data from this particular study came from 2019. In 2020, it was highlighted the need, obviously, for our mental health, not only services, but education. A teacher, particularly in our middle schools and high schools, will see about 180 students a day. And that is an opportunity for all of our students to have access to not only health information, health education, but piggybacking on what Doreen mentioned earlier, learning the skills that will allow them to access those services when in fact needed. The skills of communicating, the skills of accessing information that is valid, reliable, accessing resources, decision-making, as well as the practicing of health-enhancing behaviors. Next slide. The partnership between mental health services and mental health instruction, although the two are different, as Doreen mentioned earlier, both are extremely important and valuable partners in this. Foundations for implementation. Implementation of Education Code 51925 is supported by a number of elements in place at our schools, within families, and within our communities. I'd like to share some valuable supports that are already existing that will get schools and districts sort of started with evaluating and implementing key ideas for their learners when it comes to mental health instruction. The prerequisites that are requirements of Ed Code 51925, those requirements are in our secondary schools, middle and high schools, if they have a health education course. But it's important to recognize that we all have health, and it starts a lot earlier than middle school and high school. And by having some prerequisite learning in our earlier grades, it can set up for more age-appropriate lessons and be more effective when our young people do reach middle school and high school. The knowledge and skills are extremely important. Knowledge is the foundation that we build the skills upon, and they become very empowering and powerful when they are paired together, not only for one to be able to self-serve and act for themselves, but also for others. Looking at developmental development in context, mental health competencies reach far beyond in the classroom and in the classroom experiences. The need for access to these individual competencies, it extends to family and household settings, peer interactions, and into the community. When we look at promotion is sharing these elements that students are learning in the classroom. They share the elements of mental well-being and mental wellness. They share these elements with their peers. They share these elements with their family members. And they also go out and share these elements within their community, hopefully making their community healthier. When we look at success, as mentioned earlier in the UCLA study, there are students that were debilitated by their mental health challenges, and it interfered with their academic success. And so by implementing health education, that can add to the success. And then we also have just the strong connections. Health education, these skills, the standards connect with other content. So it's not just in a health education course, but these skills of decision-making, these skills of promoting health enhancing behaviors, the skills of analyzing influences, they connect with all other content, making the student more well-rounded. Next slide. Let's kind of get started taking a look at what mental health instruction is, just sort of focusing on the classroom practice. The content is what is being taught. Assessment is how we know that a student is learning or has learned. The instruction would be the best practices that a teacher is using to deliver the learning. And then the environment, how the classroom environment is safe and supports the learning of the mental health, essential concepts, skills, and overall knowledge. Next slide. I want to focus for a moment on just what it is that students learn related to mental health. Next. The requirement for mental health is outlined, looking at the content from both perspectives. Education Code 51925, or SB 224, requires content around stigma surrounding mental health challenges and what can be done to overcome the stigma and increase awareness and promote acceptance. When we look at our middle school health education standards, if you take a close look at this slide, we see that the mental health standards align, okay, and there is an alignment between the two. So as you take a moment to read through this particular slide on your own, just kind of note how the standard addresses the required content. Standard 5 is our decision-making standard. And again, it allows students to practice this process, because it is a process and is a skill that takes practice, to use it in a variety of situations that impacts their mental, emotional, and social health. Standard 7, which is practicing health enhancing behaviors, again, allows students in a safe classroom education setting to practice how they respect individual differences and diverse backgrounds. So there is direct alignment. You'll see the skill of decision-making and how it's used in a variety of situations. It impacts mental health, noting the opportunity to connect students to helping them understand overcoming stigma and increasing awareness while promoting acceptance. Next slide. In our high schools, the alignment between the requirement of mental health content outlined in our Ed Code and the high school health education standards. still looking at stigma surrounding mental health challenges. But note the standard addresses stigma of mental health challenges without using the term stigma. In the standard itself, we are connecting learning directly to required content of the new requirements. Students are analyzing internal and external issues related to seeking health assistance. Having students understand and realize that it's okay to not be okay allows them to say and see that when they need help, that they know how to seek it and get that mental health assistance, and it is okay. And we don't stigmatize it, we sort of normalize it as a way for them to be healthy. Next slide. There needs to be a balanced approach to health education. One of the important ways to address the new requirement of mental health instruction is to evaluate what already exists, okay, and the health education offerings that are within a district at their middle and high school levels. The evaluation process has to consider whether or not it is a balanced approach to health education, and is it being provided to all students. Authentic, comprehensive health education includes all of the learning and all the content areas of health education. This maximizes the student's opportunity to learn, as well as the time needed for students to get what they need to know and practice the skills so that they can achieve optimum levels of health. Next slide. The learning contained in the new requirements for mental health instruction also connect to and support the learning in additional content areas. And those content standards, and here's an example of those connections. Nutrition and physical activity and personal and community health were two of the content areas that Doreen shared earlier. Notice the mental health standard connects to 4 other standards in other content areas, 3 in our nutritional and physical activity unit, and 1 in our personal and community health. So it allows students to see that the learning is all connected. The relationship provides our learners with the opportunity to revisit the learning a number of different times. Okay, the learning in this case is the knowledge, but it provides additional learning opportunities in mental health. So they're learning it in nutrition and physical activity, learning it in personal community health, and again, revisiting it in mental and emotional health. So they get plenty of opportunities for that learning and to practice what it is that they've learned. Teachers can easily and effectively connect the learning together in support of mental health when they are planning, or when we as teachers are planning and providing the instruction for our students. Next slide. So here's another example of how we connect the learning. Okay. Each of these pieces of learning are skills-based. And again, connecting in 2 additional content areas or 2 additional units within our content. Okay. Teachers like myself can easily and effectively connect the learning together in support of mental health when providing instruction in almost all of the other units within our content of health education. You can see decision-making is a skill. It is one that needs practice. They're able to practice it in our nutrition unit as well as our mental health unit. The other skill of analyzing, they practice it in our nutrition unit, again in our personal and community health unit, as they also will get to practice it in our mental health unit. So if you just take a quick glance at this, you can see some connecting of the required material and how it is all aligned in giving students an opportunity to see that it's just not an isolated skill or task. It's one that is used throughout the entire content, which allows them to see how it's used throughout their life in the different areas that impacts their overall health. Next slide. Here's a compilation of all the standards that we just looked at on the previous 2 slides. Both knowledge and skill-based, and either directly supporting the learning of mental health or connecting the learning of mental health to other learning. And once again, it supports the learning of mental health knowledge and skills because the two together not only enhance the learner, but benefits the students in their overall mental health and well-being. Next slide. Assessment. How do we know that the students are learning? When I, as a teacher, and other teachers are assessing student learning, we definitely have to monitor their progress. In middle school, we want students to be able to monitor personal stressors and assess them. We want them to be able to appropriately recognize the impact of maybe teasing of peers. Within a community, we want them to analyze situations that determine whether they call for acts of caring for someone, a trusted friend. And same in high school. We want them analyzing the qualities of healthy peers. We want them accessing school and community resources. We want them evaluating the benefits of professional services related to mental, emotional, and social health. How would it benefit students to practice and receive feedback on their ability to appropriately access resources, to appropriately evaluate? And how would evaluating the benefits of professional services related to mental health support students seeking these services? I think it's easy to say that the assessment of skills is foundational to actually using mental health learning in real life. These are real life skills, and we need to build familiarity and confidence within our students so that they are able to take action that will allow them to access the help that they need when they need it. So it allows them to practice sort of a self-serving when the time has come, and also supports them helping others. But again, it's just widely supported through assessing. When they know that they have done it sort of correctly because they have the guidance of a teacher, it builds that confidence for them to do it when maybe that teacher or that trusted adult is not around. Next slide. Effective use of assessment process is a balance between the use of assessment for learning and assessment of learning. A positive and inclusive, safe, caring, and supportive classroom and atmosphere is critical to students' willingness to take risk and learn from feedback and self-assessment, and to move on to the next steps of learning. Next slide. So a few examples that we have here. So the standard in grade 7 or 8 is that they have to identify trusted adults to report to if people are in danger of hurting themselves. An assessment tool: who are the adults on campus? Evidence: a list of trusted adults. I know personally that I had 3 students, 2 of which, after a lesson about suicide prevention, they used the information that we had in class and they were able to act on it. 2 of the young people heard a friend that said some things that they knew just were concerning to them. They could not find a trusted adult at the time, but one of them went to find a trusted adult who happened to be in an office. The other one was actually able to use the suicide prevention hotline number on the back of their ID to get their friend the help that they needed. So they were able to act on the skills. They were able to act and make a good decision for a friend that at the time was in danger of hurting themselves. And so again, what we did in class, how they were assessed in class, gave them the confidence and gave them what they needed to act in a real life, real moment situation where a classmate, a friend was hurting. Next slide. At the high school, another example is comparing various coping mechanisms for managing stress. The assessment tool will be using the information researched about various coping mechanisms for managing stress, applying the decision-making process to, let's say, a question such as which coping mechanisms is best decision for me, because it makes it personal. And then students writing an essay that describes their decision-making process. Evidence of this is the essay that describes the 5 steps in the decision-making process, significant detail throughout the essay about the different coping mechanisms that will benefit them, and it should be provided as part of step 2 and 3 of the decision-making process. And then the description of their reflection in step 5 should demonstrate a genuine introspection, identifying the coping mechanism that was best for them. So again, it allows students, we address the standard, it allows students to use an assessment tool that teachers can guide them and help them understand that they're on the right path. So when in a real life situation, they know how to act and they have the confidence that what they will do will support them and help them and guide them to navigating through these very stressful situations that they have to cope with as a part of life. Next slide. Instructional strategies, okay, and some considerations that we want to look at. We have to consider the time and place of the schedule. Mental health is definitely not the first unit that I would start with. We have to be able to build a relationship with our students because the topic is one that is heavy, it is one that can be emotional, and it is one in which students need to feel safe. Okay, so some of the instructional strategies that work better with mental health content include journaling, sharing circles, collective writing, cooperative learning, group discussions, scenarios, and role-playing, literature, inquiry-based, or issues that are more inquiry-based. But again, mental health is a content area that again can be heavy. It can have students not want to open up and share. So teachers definitely have to be aware of when they put that in their pacing guide to make sure that students feel safe and that the environment is safe for them to share and feel like they can grow in practicing the skills that involve their mental and emotional well-being. Next slide. Some examples from the framework. Responsible decision-making can be applied as real-life situations arise. As I shared with our students a few years back, it kind of makes us proud as teachers when we know what we're doing in the classroom is having such an impact. With those students, they had the confidence to act at a time when a friend was in crisis, and they made the most of that moment and helped that student when the time came. Students learn that people with mental health disorders often do not seek help, and due to the stigma associated with mental health. So outreach from concerned friends and teachers is important in caring for others. Technology, social media, their impacts on one's mental health are important topics that need to be discussed in a safe environment within the classroom. Scenarios can be discussed, such as how one feels if one is not being accepted, respected, or recognized by others on a popular social media site. All of these are real life situations that arise, and with mental health instruction in a classroom, these are things that can be talked about, discussed, shared, and students are given not only the tools and the strategies, but the skills to know how to navigate these real life situations when they arise. Next slide. The learning environment is essential. Okay. Classrooms need to be a safe zone. Okay. It needs to be safe, it needs to be confidential. We need to create sort of like a family environment where students feel included, where it's a welcoming space, and where all can bring kind of their authentic selves to the classroom environment. Okay. Its elevated significance can impact the mental health instruction, allowing students to take risk and be vulnerable when they feel safe in the environment. Use a kind of trust bubble or circle in the classroom. Okay, and students need to have the right to pass or tap out if the information or the content's just a little too heavy. So creating a safe space is extremely essential when doing mental health or when providing instruction on mental health. Next slide. As I finish up, One of the 9 California subject matter projects is the California Physical Education and Health Project. It does provide professional learning to our health educators, technical assistance to schools, and equips teachers and school leaders with their role in high quality health education. And I just wanted to share that. And also, if people had questions about the material kind of covered here today from my portion of it, or would like to discuss more, they can reach out to the California Physical Education and Health Project at the website, cpehp@csuci.edu. Next slide. And that is it from my portion. Thank you for your time. And I'm going to pass it back to Doreen.
Thank you, Amelia. It's so incredibly powerful to hear from teacher leaders like you. So thank you so much from that perspective and from bringing it back to what this looks like in the classroom. I just want to reassure everyone that everybody that's registered for this webinar will receive the slides so that you could access a lot of the resources that we're going to be sharing with you. And I'm going to start off this resource section by just letting you all know that we do have a website that pretty much took all of the wonderful, updated, great information from the newly adopted California Health Education Framework and put it in a website, basically. And our California Health Education Community of Practice across the state, which is basically county offices of education, came together to make sure that we vet resources to add to this website. Everything that's on the website is free. I just really want you to if you are an instructor in the classroom, if you're a teacher, a paraeducator, instructor, or aide, please check out the educator tab. You could click on that and then you could actually explore resources based on the grade span that you teach. And then the professional learning page, which is really wonderful. There are self-paced courses that you could take. The guidance from the framework has been developed into courses that you could access as well. And then we've also pulled together no cost, on-demand online resources and courses and webinars and professional learning opportunities from different credible partners from across the state and across the nation, actually, that you could access as well. So some really great resources for you to check. And again, everything on there is at no cost. We also developed some materials to share more about this new legislation and the new requirements. So on the website, there's also a mental health education page. It's under the administrator tab. We've created a one-pager that can be shared with different stakeholders at your district or school site. There is a health education infographic that kind of summarizes where this fits into a health education course. We also created an assessment tool. So let's say you're a health teacher, you've been teaching health education for a while now, and because of this mandate, you want to know, hey, wait, are the materials I'm using, do they actually meet the requirements of this new legislation? We created an assessment tool that shows you the content standards, shows you the ed code, and then allows you to be able to say, oh yeah, my lesson 7 captures that nicely, or actually I'm missing a whole piece on stigma. I really don't go over that. So that really kind of helps you with the planning piece. A great tool to be used also at the district level for all of the curriculum planning that takes place. And with that, I am going to hand it off to Rico to share additional resources for you to explore.
Thank you, Doreen. Good evening, everyone. My name is Rico Petrino. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm an education programs assistant in the Office of School-Based Health Programs. I'm here to present some information on a variety of mental health instructional resources that are available to you as educators. First, I'd like to introduce you to Erica's Lighthouse Classroom Education. This is a suite of programs designed to allow educators to empower their students with an introduction to mental health, depression literacy, help seeking, and what it takes to promote good mental health. Best of all, these no-cost skill-based programs are targeted at grades 4 through 12 and use diverse teen voices to spread awareness and reduce stigma. Next, I'd like to tell you about the Cal Hope Schools Initiative. This initiative links 3 powerful resources together at one easy access point for California educators. These resources include a trusted space, redirecting grief to growth, angst, building resilience, and Look at Me Now, Stories of Hope. They offer positive and thoughtful ways to navigate a challenging educational ecosystem, utilizing online resources such as transformational films that speak directly to the heart of social and emotional needs, and customized curriculum and guides to help teachers, students, and families successfully navigate the journey to personal well-being. Next slide, please. I'd also like to mention the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI's mental health education. NAMI offers education classes, presentations, and outreach, as well as advocacy and wellness resources for both students and families. Additionally, they offer NAMI Ending the Silence and NAMI Hearts and Minds. Now let's discuss Sandy Hook Promise. This organization offers 2 programs designed to equip students with the skills to support one another and create a culture of inclusivity. Start with Hello teaches empathy and encourages students to end social isolation. It also includes a video training, an educator guide, and a handbook to help schools build and reinforce a culture of inclusion. Say Something teaches middle and high school students to recognize the warning signs of someone at risk of hurting themselves or others, and how to say something to a trusted adult to get help. Next slide, please. Next is Directing Change. This program is part of statewide efforts to prevent suicide, reduce stigma and discrimination related to mental illness, and to promote the mental health and wellness of students. It is an award-winning student video contest that encourages youth to share their stories of hope, recovery, and resilience. Next slide. Living Works Start Online Training is an online program that teaches valuable skills to everyone 13 and older. It includes a powerful 4-step model to keep someone safe from suicide, and it provides practice opportunities through impactful simulations. It also provides safety resources and support throughout the program. Signs of Suicide, SOS, is another key mental health resource. It is a curriculum that is designed to be taught in a single class period. Through a video and guided discussion, students learn to identify warning signs of suicide and depression. The curriculum also raises awareness about behavioral health and encourages students to act, acknowledge, care, and tell if they are worried about themselves or their peers. And that's all for the resources I have to share with you today. I'll hand it back over to our Deputy Steve Zimmer to tell you about some more.
Thank you so much, Rico. And thank you to all of our presenters for this incredibly valuable webinar and information. I want to just share a few other pieces of information, resources for all of you that are on the CDE website, and they're connected directly connected to CDE's work. We have a mental health resources page on the CDE website. Again, you'll be getting this slide deck. The link should be live, but in case it's not, you can copy it when you get the slide deck. And there is just a vast list of resources on that mental health webpage. And look, you know, not all of the resources are for everyone, and I know that you'll have to do some curating of that, but it is a vast and comprehensive list, and we hope and we know that there'll be something for everyone. And then particularly we have also youth suicide prevention resources on the website as well. And finally, and I know all of you know about this, we want to encourage you to use the 988 Healthline. The last thing I want to just kind of give you, it is Oscar season, and I am talking to you from Los Angeles, California. So I want to give you kind of a trailer for coming attractions. We're going to be releasing later this spring. We're piloting them right now, an asynchronous suite of mental health trainings for both staff, students 13 and over, and families through a partnership with Wellness Together called the Wellness Education Lab. And the topics include rethinking anxiety and foundational mental health issues. These trainings are for staff, for students themselves, and for families, both in English and in Spanish. And with that, I'd like to bring back Deputy Superintendent Portillo. We'll go to our last slide, if you will. And I just want to thank again our presenters today, Doreen, Chris, Rico, Diane, who you'll see is a resource as well, and Amalia, whose email is not on here, but if you join this health education collaborative, it meant so much to us today to have two teachers, and especially Amalia, an amazing practitioner, to speak as part of this webinar today. And again, if you need to reach us, these resources are here. I want to encourage you especially to use the wellness email, where we monitor regularly and get back to folks for resources they need. And so with that, I'd like to thank you and turn it over to my colleague for a few words of closing. Deputy Superintendent Portillo. Oh, she might not still be with us. Let me wrap up by thanking you on behalf of Superintendent Thurman, not only for joining us today, but for all that you do. We see the questions in the Q&A. We will be emailing. Thank you, Michelle. We'll be emailing answers directly to those questions, and appreciate you appreciate you joining us today. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful day and a wonderful rest of your school year.